Welcome on back to another episode of the Goonery. A lot less somber of a note this week than the last few weeks with the Bears. Another loss, a tough one to the Falcons on the road. But the real story here is Justin Fields has a sprained AC joint in his non-throwing shoulder, at least. But you're at the point now, you're a top 3 draft pick. I mean, do you just bench Fields? Because, I mean, you know what he can do, at least for a few weeks here. I'm not saying the whole year, but if you were in the Bears position right now, Brandon, do you want Justin Fields sitting down? But knowing Fields, he's not going to want to sit down. That's the predicament you're in here, I think.
So I would absolutely bench him for the Jets game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about the Jets defense is too good and they're going to expose his flaws. Like, listen, he's an NFL quarterback. He's going to be the franchise quarterback. He's going to face defenses like the Jets, and you can't hide him from that, or else we'll be doing a disservice to Fields. However, this game, considering he's not healthy, he's banged up. He even came into the game saying that his legs felt heavy, so he had to take it easy in practice last week, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I think this week you bench him, but if he's healthy to go, you start him and you keep playing him till, you feel there's a reason why he shouldn't play. And the reason is that at the end of the day, we know what Fields can do. He has shown the world what he can do, whether people want to see it or not. He has proven to be an NFL starting quarterback. And I think now more than ever, you have guys like Cole Kmet, who is coming on, Darnell Mooney, who has been the undisputed number 1 target from this year, and Chase Claypool still needs to get acclimated with this offense. And I do think that regardless of the gap in between the season's end and the next season, I still think it's very important that you build a chemistry with those guys and you build on that, because the rest of the schedule for the Bears is not going to be easy. Like it's tough. You still have Green Bay on there, regardless of their record. They're always going to play the Bears tough. Yeah, Philadelphia, Buffalo, another game with Minnesota. It's tough, but you still want to see him against the best competition while he's healthy, so you know what exactly the Bears are going to be getting and how much you have to work with him in terms of the weapons he has involved. And we could say like maybe 3-4 guys that's on the roster is probably going to be there next year, but those 3 or 4 guys are going to make a difference in how the Bears are going to perform next season, if you ask me.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty spot on. We could just kind of jump into it right now, especially how bad the Jets offense has looked the last few weeks. I mean, Zach Wilson has looked as bad as any quarterback as we've seen in a really long time, if we're being completely honest, these last few weeks. And is that defense great? Yes. Would Fields most likely have to use his legs more than he should? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big concern that you're going to have, because one big hit, and you've seen the lack of protection Justin Fields has gotten from referees across like the entire season compared to other quarterbacks. I mean, I saw something where Matt Eberflus is apparently submitting 3 to 4 plays a week that he believed were not called targeting to the league offices on Justin Fields. And I believe it. I mean, I don't know how you watch some of these hits he faces. There was one, I believe it was in the 4th quarter, where Justin Fields was getting sacked and he was spinning down. He went to a knee. He was down after the whistle was blown. I forgot who it was, and the Falcons just came in, hit him high while Fields was on one knee from the side. I'm not going to say any other quarterback, but I would say at least 75% of other quarterbacks in the NFL get that call. And I just don't know if you can risk that, because shoulders are weird, man.
Yeah. And also too, we saw with Taylor Heineke, the way he got hit is the reason why Philadelphia is not undefeated at this moment in time.
Yep.
And so you have to wonder, and I'm going to go back to another hit that he took, and it was against Detroit on that last drive where the whistle was called. He still got slammed to the ground. No, nothing was called, nothing. And you just wonder, this isn't about a superstar getting calls. This is about, are we actually protecting quarterbacks? Are we picking and choosing which quarterbacks are we choosing to protect? Because I think we don't have enough fingers to count how many suspect hits Justin Fields has taken this year that has gone not called nothing. And this has been dated back to last season. And hell, it was even happening in the preseason. He seems to be a guy that they know is a danger with his legs. And they kind of use that against him when you have guys that are trying to end him. They're trying to take him out the game. So that's one thing. But I want to go to the Jets side because I'm from Jersey. Sports Talk Raiders been talking about it all week. How Zach Wilson and the Jets offense mustered a single-digit amount of yards in the second half. And he finished 9 of 22, 77 yards. Y'all remember, Zach Wilson was supposed to be in the best situation out of any quarterback in that draft class. And somehow, some way, he's turned out to be, performance-wise, the worst. And the one thing that I didn't really awake myself to, but I had to think about it. Joe Flacco was the reason why the run of the Jets got kickstarted in the first place, right? And then you got to go back to last season when Zach Wilson got hurt. Joe Flacco wasn't available. And guess who came in and saved the day? It was Mike White. He tore the Bengals up. Before he got knocked out of Indianapolis, he tore Indianapolis up. And you want to know what the most scathing part about this? That same Indianapolis game, Josh Johnson, the journeyman and backup quarterback, threw for over 300 yards in that game. And so if someone would have to tell me, but I can't remember Zach Wilson ever had that type of performance. All it was intangibles. At what point is the intangibles talk going to stop with him? Because there has been no results. And the crazy thing is, you expect guys to take that leap from year one to year two. Has it happened with most of the quarterbacks in that class? It has not. He's not the only one. But if you talk about guys like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence was number one pick. He deserves the criticism. Justin Fields gets the criticism of a guy who was a top 5 pick. Zach Wilson was picked number 2. Everything was his arm talent is Mahomes-like. Like he has one of the greatest arms we've ever seen. He went to BYU. And by the way, this was told to many scouts and to many fans coming into the draft. He was not even a captain on his BYU team.
Yep.
And now you're seeing that his leadership is an issue. And it comes from a place of a guy came from money and he went to a big school at BYU. And now you're seeing that he's not connecting with anybody in that Jets locker room. And that's exactly why. Because listen, if the performances weren't bad, but he was owning if he was owning it, he played like shit, Robert Saleh would even have to be non-committal about a quarterback going into this week. This is it's a disaster because the Jets are a really good team, but it's literally him that's holding them back.
You don't throw for 77 yards and barely clear a 50 QB rating and don't say that, no, you think the offense did their job. I don't care how good you run the football. It doesn't matter. They didn't even run the football well, obviously, that game. But Zach Wilson, you can't throw for 77 yards as an NFL quarterback and say the offense did its job. And here's a fun little nugget that I saw. Zach Wilson compared to Jamarcus Russell over their first 20 career starts. Zach Wilson has a higher passer rating by 0.1. Jamarcus Russell has 2 more touchdowns and 3 less interceptions. Zach Wilson has 3% higher completion percentage, 0.1 yards, higher yard per attempt, and they have the same winning percentage over their first 20 games.
But it's just I don't get it with him. I mean, with all the arm talent that he has, and there's no denying that. There's literally no denying that. He plays like he's a mental midget. Like he plays as if he's scared of NFL defenses. He's scared to be a gunslinging quarterback. And truthfully, I think every elite quarterback has a gunslinger mentality. And if you don't have that, I don't think you're built to win. But with him, it seems as though that he just doesn't have the mental capacity to play quarterback on a good team. Because last year was just a guy that was going through the basics. He was a rookie quarterback that came from, I said BYU is a big school, but just like in terms of academics and stuff like that. But football wise, they play some pretty good competition.
And they're moving to the not the Pac-12, the Big 12. I mean, they've traditionally always been a strong program. They have,
Right.
and it's just the thing is, it's like with Zach Wilson, like a lot of the times people say when you come from like a quote unquote smaller program like BYU, oh, he doesn't have the size intangibles. Like, yeah, he's on the smaller side weight wise, but he's all of 6'3".
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the size is there. The skill, supposedly the raw skill. We'll say the raw skill is there because the natural talent is there. But it's just almost like one of those guys who you see them in high school, they do really well in high school sports, and they get to college and they flame out because they never had to try, because they were always the best at what they were, and no one would check them because of how talented they
Spencer
were.
Rattler.
Yes, exactly. But you look at this with Wilson now, and I mean, obviously it's a little different. He made it to the NFL, a top 5 draft pick, but it seems to that point, like you're at that point where no one's ever checked him.
Yeah.
He's lucky Geno Smith is not in that quarterback room, is all I'm saying, because I think he would have caught a right to the jaw. And I also saw, speaking of Geno Smith, if Geno Smith had 150 straight incompletions, he would still have a higher passer rating than Zach Wilson this year.
But it's just crazy. It's just, you can tell by, and this was the biggest warning sign to me, and you never really noticed this, but Zach Wilson's mom, the way she treated Zach Wilson upon getting drafted and all that should have been the writing on the wall that possibly this guy's been coddled. And you don't, and obviously you get to the NFL, it's very different. You got coaches that are coaching you up. Everyone has their very unique way of coaching someone up. But you would like to think that Saleh, being the hard-nosed type of guy he is, he hasn't kicked them in the ass a little bit. But I do think in this instance, because we both said it, that the Jets game against the Patriots the first time around, that was inexcusable to lose that game. But now, not only did you have an opportunity to conquer the beast that is New England, you failed, and you failed miserably. So I know that Saleh said the offense was dog shit. And now you got offensive players, Elijah Moore, who people really criticize for saying that he wants out. He's not getting the ball. Well, guess what? This entire time, he was right.
All-time Instagram post from him posting.
Yes, that was hilarious.
I mean, just all-time petty. And they're all just laughing at Zach Wilson.
Like 1,000%.
Like Zach Wilson cannot feel comfortable walking in to work this week. He can't. And if he does, he's just he's even dumber than we thought. That's what it comes down to. He is dumber and more privileged than any of us thought, because I would not be surprised if he was not playing quarterback for the Jets next year. And I genuinely mean that.
And here's the thing, they can afford to possibly do that, because I'm not sure who the quarterback class is going to look like next year in terms of free agency. But if
I have a potential thought on where he could end up.
Talk to me.
Call me crazy here. With the way the current roster is constructed for the Jets, I think there could be a deal in place that centers around Zach Wilson and Derek Carr and some draft picks, bringing Wilson out to Vegas, sending him back out west, and bringing Carr to New York with a team that is built to win.
I'm going to tell you something. I think Derek Carr has been giving the rawest of deals in his career. And I do think this year he's been down. And the only reason I say that is because, yes, you have Devontae Adams, but you also do have Hunter Renfrow, who you barely got involved. But it's been tough.
New system. I mean, there's a lot of factors there. And I don't think he necessarily wants to leave Vegas, but I think it's one of those situations where Vegas can't keep him.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, that press conference where he broke down and cried, what Jeff Saturday made him cry. I think that was an admission that this is not what I signed up for. We went from a guy who was an interim coach that led us to the playoffs to a guy that got paid a shit ton of money to lead us back to the playoffs and probably beyond. And we're even worse now. I'm telling you, it's going to come down.
They have a top 3 draft pick right now.
Exactly. And you know what? If you are Vegas, you have a top 3 pick, you still have money tied to Derek Carr. I do think that there is room for a trade. I absolutely do think that a decision has to be made between the two. I don't know if there's going to be a reconciliation between the two. Can it happen? Yeah, but it's going to take a lot of conversation to have that happen.
Yeah, and I don't think it's likely, but that's just a scenario in my head that makes sense. And it probably would
Right.
make sense playing Madden GM more than it would in real life. But hey, it is what it
Mhm.
is. It's another week of just being thankful that because for a while, out of pure intangibles and watching him play with where the Bears were at in the draft, I thought Zach Wilson was more likely than any of the other quarterbacks. And it's just rare that the one guy that the internet usually tells you, yeah, I don't see it, man, where it works out. And Zach Wilson is really looking like that person that the majority of the internet did not like. And he sucks. He flat out sucks.
And one thing that I should have saw as a warning sign, I don't know if you remember this particular play, but during 2020, they played Coastal Carolina. And there was an interception, I believe, that was thrown or something happened. And there were just two defensive players that literally bullied him. And they just kept him on the ground, kept pushing him, nothing. And you know what the crazy thing about that? There was no offensive lineman that came to his defense.
Mm-hmm. No,
And
I remember that.
yes, and there's those things where you're just like, man, maybe the armchair quarterbacks were really correct about him because I saw it. Admittedly, I saw it with Zach, but I didn't know he was this much of a mental midget, and he's just not built for this.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And then just kind of moving on to throughout the league, I think that it was an interesting week to say the least.
Yes.
I think that the other big talking point is now the fact that the Minnesota Vikings are exactly who we thought they were. They are now, I believe, what is it, 8-3 now, and they
A2.
8-2, and they have a negative point differential after losing 40-3 to Dallas. And that was, I mean, they turned that game off from the national broadcast in the third quarter. When
Yeah.
is the last time you've seen that happen with an NFL game that you can remember? I know I can't. I legitimately cannot. And I'll tell you right now, I might sound crazy for this, but I genuinely believe that Dallas is the team to beat in the NFC at this point in time.
I mean,
Who else is it? Because I don't think it's the Eagles. I really don't think it's the Eagles. I don't think they're built for postseason success.
that's the thing. I want to believe in Dallas, but
Mike McCarthy.
that Green
That's
Bay
my
game,
only. Also that. Yes.
that
Also that.
Green Bay game really made me think in a game that is of importance because you can see that the Minnesota game was of importance. It was massive
Oh, for
importance
sure.
for
For
Dallas
sure.
because you're coming off a loss against Green Bay, which
Mhm.
they probably should have lost that game. But Dak scares me in games like these. But you have a game against Minnesota, he has 3 incompletions, and he completely just dissect the Vikings
Yeah.
defense, dissected them.
Uh,
And if you look at just how the teams play, I think from a physicality standpoint, probably Dallas has the advantage
mhm.
because the way you can't be a physical team or a good team and go into a hostile environment like where the Vikings play and absolutely smack them around. It wasn't one of those games where they hung around and they just pulled away late.
Oh,
That was pure domination
ass
from
kicking
first quarter to
Yep.
fourth quarter.
Yep.
It was dominant. The only team from a physicality standpoint that I think can hold up to Dallas is San Francisco. The
Yes.
only team.
100%.
And I do think that we are going to see San Francisco really take control of the NFC West going forward. And they may not have the best records. They may have one of those games that they slip up. You know, it is what it is. But in terms of a team that is physical and will as a great run game and a guy that won't win you a game, but he can manage a game. Jimmy G he's been pretty damn good since he took back that starting job. So I do think at an NFC, they could be the favorites. I think it's a 3-team race. AFC is a different story because AFC right now, the Bills kind of convinced me out of thinking that they're going to make the Super Bowl. And we need to stop playing this game where we just we know who's the favorite, but we just want to think that someone else is. Because let's be honest, Kansas City is a runaway at this point. And I know I said Miami might make the Super Bowl because this, that, and the third or whatnot. Everything's fluid. That's a good thing about football this season. Everything's fluid. But from each conference, it's Cowboys and Chiefs that should be the favorites, but the NFC is still very fluid to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just pulled up the NFC championship winners according to FanDuel, the odds, and the top 3 teams are exactly who you'd expect. Philadelphia plus 220, San Francisco plus 340, and Dallas plus 460. With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in at 4th at plus 700, which is just, I mean, I get it. I get why, but that's just still insane to me. And the Seahawks plus 2,000 coming in at number 6 behind Minnesota. But just if you would have told Seahawk fans beginning of the year that they would have the 6th best NFC championship odds right now, they would have to be jumping for joy.
I would think, I thought in the beginning of the season where Seattle is, I thought we would be there, and Seattle will be where we are now. But that is a testament, and we talked about this at the beginning of the season that Pete Carroll should have retired when the time was right, but I think he knew he had something with this team. He knew he had something with Geno Smith, and they have a very, 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 very good chance to make the playoffs. But they're gonna have some company because don't look now, the Washington Commanders are coming. They are coming, and I was talking to somebody today, and really no fault of their own, but if the Giants lose on Thanksgiving Day to Dallas, the downfall is going to start. It's now looking pretty for them, and we saw against Detroit. And by the way, the Giants were home against Detroit. They got dominated from first quarter to fourth quarter.
I mean, Jamal Williams 3 touchdowns. That's
they bullied them. They bullied them, and you just scared to think of what Dallas is going to do to that defensive line. Lions dominated them, but the Lions exposed what the Giants are if you allow Daniel Jones to win you a game, and that is not sustainable. And if you take Barkley out of the game plan, if you make Daniel Jones throw the football, you're probably going to have success. And everything's just crazy, and it's crazy to think because, granted, I may have never been a believer in the New York Giants, but I thought their defense could take them places. But now their defense is going to be miracle workers because now there's a lot of injuries, and it's just too much to ask for Daniel Jones, who's someone who's not that good, to lead you to a place where you never thought you was going to be, and 90 people expect you to be there anyway. So.
Yeah, and I do think too, I think the lack of expectations that the Giants had throughout the year, I do think that has been a good thing for them up to this point, because I feel like they've played above their pay grade, obviously, but they've continued to, because even after they keep winning and winning and winning, people have still continually doubted them. And don't get me wrong, they lost to a very bad football team in Detroit this weekend, and it was an ass kick. They got their asses kicked by a very bad football team. But I still feel like the Giants are in that category where they're okay and they're scrappy enough to where if they play their best game, they can beat any team in football. I think if they play their absolute best game, and that's not necessarily a good place to be, because that tends to be purgatory for NFL teams, if we're being honest. But they're in their first year of a new head coach, potentially moving on from their quarterback, which I think Daniel Jones is going to get a prove-it deal after this year.
I agree, yeah.
I think they've won too many football games this year for him to not, and he's shown enough promise. And then with the lack of offensive help he's had outside of Saquon, I think he's played himself into another contract, which is just baffles me to say that out loud.
Yeah.
But who would have thought that arguably the best division in football would have been the NFC East this year? Because I know it was not me. I know for a fact it was not me. And you have what looks like right now potentially three playoff teams coming out of it. I believe. I think if the season ended today, they have three playoff teams.
2, because
Two.
Washington, Washington would be on the outside
Okay.
looking in.
Okay.
But yes, the NFC East is by far the most competitive. But we're gonna learn a lot about the NFC East after this weekend. I forgot who the Commanders are playing. I know that obviously the Thanksgiving Day with the Giants and Cowboys, and despite the season Green Bay is having, they got Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. I know he's not playing as good, but the Eagles can be had against the Packers. So we're gonna learn a lot this week about the East, and the Cowboys, they have an opportunity to really have everyone noticed, because regardless of how the Giants played on Sunday, they are still a very scrappy, tough football team. And if they could take them out to the woodshed and really do something to them, then I think I'll be fully on board with saying they are the favorites. But right now, I don't think I give a legit answer of who is the favorites.
And Washington is playing Atlanta this weekend at home.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Washington
coming back too.
Most likely going to be coming back at this time next week, 7-5. We'll see. But then just kind of looking around the league next week, outside of Thursday, it's not a lot of good football. It's like we're finally at that point in the year where it's either going to be a really good game or just a really, really shitty game, because you have Jacksonville and Baltimore. That actually honestly might end up being kind of a scrappy game. Yeah. But then you have Miami and Houston. That's going to be an ass kicking. You have Carolina and Denver. That they might score 20 points total. There might be 20 points in that game. And then you have Vegas and Seattle, which I think will probably be an ass kicking. The Chargers and the Cardinals, arguably two of the worst coach teams in the NFL. I mean, that's just going to be a battle of who can fuck up the clock management the most, who can go for it on fourth down the most and miss the most 2-point conversions. And then Monday night, you have Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. It's just it's a rough week, and you're really gonna see the separation. This is that week. I feel like every year there's at least 1 or 2 weeks where you finally see these teams separate themselves from the pack, and when there's more focus on them, whether it's Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, everyone's watching football, or Sunday because there's less games on, I think national media is going to finally kind of catch up around every team.
But first of all, that schedule is telling me that I need to load up on drinks just so I can enjoy the games more, because those are not going to be enjoyable. But the one game that does interest me is Cincinnati and Tennessee.
Yes.
And Cincinnati low-key starting to find their groove. Jamar Chase is coming back. Thank God for fantasy purposes. Tennessee is probably the toughest team in the league, and they're not a team we're going to talk about. You want to know why? Because they don't play the sexy brand of football. They are a ground and pound, game managing. And by the way, I don't know if you remember the Thursday night game last week, but outside the interception, Tannehill threw, he looked pretty damn good. Like, he completely
people like to rip on Tannehill, man, but he's as consistent, not as consistent, but as consistently average, I think you can say, as anyone. He is not as good as Alex Smith, but he's not as bad as, let's say, I don't know, just trying to think back, a Matt Schaub, I don't know, or Joe Flacco back in the day, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you have Derrick Henry playing like Derrick Henry again, you don't need to throw the ball 30 times a game. He looks like Tractor Cito again. He looks like the scariest motherfucker on every football field he steps on. I still don't understand how he is 6'4", 260 pounds, runs a 4.4, I don't understand why anyone, like, every time I saw that man coming for me, it'd be a business decision. I would fall. I'd trip on my
I'll
shoelace,
do a Tyler
blow
Lockett
out my
every single
ankle.
time.
I don't care. I don't care. I am I've heard the hypothetical. If you get 10 chances to tackle Derrick Henry, if you tackle him, you get $1 million for every time you try and tackle him. I don't know if the CTE would be worth it. I genuinely don't know.
You know, the CT won't be worth it, but if I have to go for his legs to make some
Dive at the
money,
ankles.
I
Dive at the
will
ankles.
do it.
You dive at the ankles, but
It is the only way. And if they make the stipulation that I can't do that, then I guess I will. I guess I walk away broke. It is what it is.
And so here's the thing, just on the topic of Derrick Henry, that it kind of this time of the year, I feel like he usually slows down a little bit just from being banged up, but he's like kind of turned it up a notch this year. I don't know what the difference has been. I've kind of noticed this in years past. I feel like Derrick Henry runs very straight up. He can
Yeah.
still run you over, but he's just so big that it's hard for him to get low to maintain speed. I feel like he runs very straight up, and that's why it's kind of hard for him to get through that first level at times.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we haven't seen that as much this year. And I feel like if I was any coach lining up my guys against him, you just have to preach gang tackling. I mean, like you're doing pursuit drills like it's high school football that week. I don't care if you're making millions of dollars. You need as many guys on him as you can possibly manage. And I think he's going to run all over Cincinnati, if we're being completely honest.
He just might. And you know what? I do think the fact that there are two running backs that they spell him for, Dontrell Hilliard and Hassan Haskins. I think that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get down to the postseason and the game slows down and you have to rely on your run game in colder conditions, I think Tennessee's going to be extremely dangerous. And that's the key. And if they can keep him healthy for as much time as possible, who's to say that Tennessee can't make another 2019 kind of run to an AFC Championship game? And that's a team that everybody should be scared about. Not Baltimore. Yeah. Obviously, Kansas City is the cream of the crop, but Buffalo, maybe not them. Miami, they're good, but we got to see that toughness.
Yeah.
Tennessee's the toughest team in that conference. And sometimes that's the reason why there's a lot of teams that make it somewhat far.
And I'll say this about Tennessee too. They had the second best head coach in that conference. And I don't even think it's particular. Okay, no, third. I forgot about Belichick, but I don't even think it's particularly close. I mean, Mike Vrabel, the way he is able to get his guys to rally around him, he's going to be the coach of the Tennessee Titans for as long as he wants to be.
Absolutely.
There. And the only way I ever see him leaving is if he goes and takes over in New England. Yes. And I think that is a possibility down the road, I think. But this might be a bad comparison, but he is reaching like 1980s level of love that Chicago gave Mike Ditka in that city.
See, the only reason
I know he hasn't won shit yet, but like,
yeah.
But with what he's doing, with what he's been given, I think that he's that good of a football coach. End of the day.
Yeah, I think he's comparable to I think guys like maybe John Fox in the early 2000s or John Gruden in the early 2000s. Okay. John Gruden, he had really good teams. He always got close. He did win the Super Bowl, but I do think guys like that, because even then, and by the way, I'm gonna go completely off topic. You bring up Ditka, and I don't know if you saw the Bachelor douchebags that dressed up like Ditka.
Oh, I saw it.
And two things came to mind. Number one, first, it's cringe. It's cringe. I'm sorry, it's cringe. I get it. I get the sentiment. It's a cool thing to do. You're obviously Bears fans. I get it. But do people realize that 1985 was a Jeremy Lin type of run for Mike Ditka? He didn't do shit outside of it. When he left Chicago, he was even worse of a head coach. I listen. I understand Bears fans are.
It was 37 years ago. 37 years ago. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that the majority of the guys on that bachelor party were not born in 1985.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I'm sorry, but it is embarrassing to hold on to this guy as if he was the holy grail. If this was Don Shula type of success or Joe Gibbs type of success, I would get it.
It'd be different.
It'd be completely different. I would understand it. I may still think he's a racist piece of shit, but I would get it. But he won one championship in Chicago. I mean, it's not like Chicago was a starved sports town for years. You had Michael Jordan, for fuck's sake. You had Michael Jordan. You're not starved. Basketball, you're not starved. Football, yes. But yeah, Michael Jordan, man.
I just think it comes down to the fact that Chicago is a football town. At the end of the day, Chicago is a football town. Being here, living here, growing up here, everyone loves the Bulls. Split town with baseball teams, obviously. White Sox fans, very passionate. Cub fans, whatever. I don't feel like going down that rabbit hole. Hawks fans were kind of non-existent for a while until they started to win again. And I mean, rightfully so, ownership treated that organization like shit and treated the fans like shit. I get it.
Yeah.
But the one team that everyone consistently cares about is the Bears. And I will tell you, in my lifetime, championships are not the most. Okay, well, I should say it was probably 06 when the Bears went to the Super Bowl, but I was a little too young to remember that. But 2018, when the Bears made their run, double doink, all that, I have never felt a buzz around this city greater about a sports team than the 2018 Chicago Bears. Everyone just like it's the Bears. It's a Bears town, and that's why people won't give up on Ditka. That's why everyone still makes fun of Tressman. That's why everyone still makes fun of Matt Nagy. That's why it's just like they care more about it. So of course they're going to try and hold on to what they're convincing themselves is really good for a year, and then everyone left, and you saw that. Oh wait. He was carried by his coordinators. Shocker.
Yep.
And end of the day, whatever. It's city of Chicago, man. One day, I don't know what it's going to take, but one day everyone will give up on Ditka as being our Lord and Savior.
Well, I'm just waiting for the man downstairs to call him home, but we can move on from that.
So pivoting over some wrestling, it's been a very eventful week in wrestling for the internet. The build to Survivor Series obviously has been great. I kind of want to talk about some AEW so we can do some hating. Let's be completely honest. If you've listened to this show for long enough, Brandon and I, not the biggest AEW guys, follow it. I enjoy parts of it more than Brandon, that's for sure. We're WWE guys on this show.
Admittedly.
And I'm okay with being a WWE homer.
Right.
No issues with that. But after being suspended following the media scrum where CM Punk won the AEW world title, after he got into the fight with executive vice presidents, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite, hell of a nickname to give yourselves, by the way. They come back out at Full Gear for the first of 7. Let's also get into that real quick. AEW fans love to bash on WWE for rehashing matches, but when AEW does a best of 7 where it's a series, the titles aren't swapping hands, or a decision isn't being made until best of series 7 is completed. Could you imagine if WWE busted that out right now? The internet would be melting over Triple H rehashing matches week after week. Oh, it's so unoriginal, but it's all right. It's the Elite, so it doesn't matter. But they come out, new entrance music. Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. Key lyric, there'll be peace when you're gone. Speaking of, who else would it be other than CM Punk? And then cheering on the crowd as they are chanting "fuck CM Punk" during their match. I mean, I just don't get. I get that relationship sour. I understand both parties are pricks, like, but it's rare that after last week, I feel like majority. I'm not gonna say the majority. Wrestling fans with a brain, how about that? Have kind of come to the conclusion that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are just as big of hand jobs as CM Punk.
I always go back to this one particular tweet, and it says, "Who is the messiest person that you know, and why is it a man?" I mean, here's the thing. It is kind of the defense mechanism that you expect from the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, because not only did Punk call you out for starting this whole shit, by the way, let's be clear. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega started this whole thing that prompted CM Punk to be at that media scrum saying what he said. Not only did you start the trouble, you got your ass kicked for your troubles. So if you want to try on this victory run of, oh, we're back, but he's not. We look like the better guys in this situation. And the guy that started all of this, quote unquote, is not here anymore. We win. Like there's nobody's going to be checking us about this. But
and the man who should be checking them on it, he's not going to do it.
He ain't doing shit. And he never will. And that's the problem. But the craziest thing to me is there's the people that was chanting CM Punk, they're going to say, oh, he fucked with the elite. That's a no-go. They're my guys, and I'm going to support them. You know what the whole reason why people were talking about AEW this whole summer? It had nothing to do with wrestling. Had everything to do around the drama outside of wrestling. But you want to continue to egg that on because you feel like that publicity was good publicity, because there are people who think that any publicity is good publicity, but it's not the case. And the fact of the matter is this: I've never liked the Young Bucks. I think they're just extremely corny, and they're theatrical figures. They're not wrestlers to me. They're not. And the fact that they are egging this whole thing on when people are trying to move on from it, but you want to continue to try and continue to steer the narrative in your direction, that's not helping anybody. That's not helping anybody. Even if you want to out CM Punk from your company completely, this is not the way to do it. You had to have put on some good matches to have people forget that. But all people can talk about is you doing gymnastics in the ring and the crowd chanting CM Punk. Like, think about how damaging that is.
No,
and the
I
fact that we say stuff like this, we're haters. We don't understand. We're shills for the Fed or whatever the fuck they be saying. Like, people gotta understand. And there was this one tweet I quoted. It made me so sick. So this guy said, I don't know how you can hate the elite. I'm not gonna lie. They make it very easy.
Pretty damn easy.
Though.
Yeah.
They make it damn easy.
And do you want to know who makes it even easier, if we're being honest?
Who?
Their fans.
Yes.
Their fans make it even easier. And it's just, I liken them to like Yankee fans almost. It's like, you know what I mean? Where they're just
from an obnoxious standpoint, you're absolutely correct.
From an obnoxious standpoint. And it's just, they think they're better than you. And
yes.
that's what bothers me with it. And I just think you're gonna see, as a result of it's just gonna be a trickle-down effect. You're gonna start to see stuff unraveling more and more over there. And you can already see it because you're seeing a lot of guys expressing how unhappy they are over there now. And although this is going to sound crazy, but as long as they keep MJF there, I think they'll be afloat, because
he's the only guy.
That guy is
as good as it gets.
Dude, he is something special.
As good as it gets.
I saw speaking just on the topic of MJF, I saw a potential storyline for how to bring CM Punk back into the fold. And it is to align CM Punk with MJF as a manager figure, with Punk still wrestling, but as like a duo, with Punk trying to do whatever it takes to help MJF retain the title until his contract is up to leave the company with the title, like Punk left WWE with the title and storyline, as a way to bring Punk back into the fold. And I saw that proposed, and I know it will never happen because of who's pulling the strings, but goddamn, would that not be awesome? I think
it makes
a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and truthfully, because from egos would never allow that to happen. Unfortunately. But in hindsight, it would be great until the internet gets a hold of it, because now we're going to talk about the whole recycling factor, and that's already going to be a whole discourse in of itself. But this is also one thing too, and I think we could both vouch for when WrestleManias was 6-7 hours long. It felt like I thought splitting up into 2 days was the best possible thing.
I love 2 day WrestleManias. It's awesome.
It's great, and I just love the fact that every moment feels bigger because it's not on the same night where they're trying to fit everything in. AEW got to stop this 13 match pay-per-view shit. They have to. Because I'm 25 years old. I'm an old man. I wake up 7 o'clock every day, so I'm dead by 10 o'clock. I can't stay up to watch wrestling that's this long, man. And listen, I'm not the biggest AEW fan. I may keep up with it here and there, but even with WWE, if the event runs to 12 o'clock, my ass won't be staying up for it. But they got to stop this, because every single match did not belong on that card. That every match had some type of build to it, absolutely. But did it belong to be on a pay-per-view with 13 matches? Yeah. Absolutely not. They have to find a balance, and they have to minimize this stuff, because it takes away from moments. And there's too many things that you have to digest, and it's going to take away from the bigger moments in the matches, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, just speaking of that, I mean, WWE cards used to be incredibly bloated, and they've really, really, really started to tone that down. And I mean, I think you're seeing it with Survivor Series this coming Sunday more than ever. I believe there's 5 matches on the card at this point in time.
I think so.
And I mean, because there's the SmackDown Women's Championship match with Shotzi and Ronda. You have AJ and Finn. You have both War Games matches, and then it's the triple threat match for the U.S. title, I believe. And I think I think that's it. And that's going to be about, I would bet, a 3-hour show. And it's going to be incredible. We have not talked WWE on here in a while, but I think War Games is going to start to be the burn of Sami Zayn betraying the bloodline and dethroning Roman Reigns becoming the WWE champion.
I think we are going to get closer to that breakup between Sami and the bloodline, and it's all going to stem from him taking the pin from Kevin Owens. That's exactly how it's going to go, and we're going to probably see an eventual alliance between Sami and Kevin to take those tag team championships off the Usos. I think it's still inevitable that Cody Rhodes will come back, beat Roman, win Royal Rumble. I still think it's inevitable.
I genuinely, I don't know anymore, because I think yes. I think the thing with Cody is he realistically can come in, and with the way they built him up before the injury, when he comes back from the injury, they've built him up in a way where he's going to be the top guy for the entire time he's here, where he could be inserted into that title picture whenever he wants. You don't have this type of organic build with a guy like Sami Zayn. It doesn't happen all the time. The last time it's happened was Kofi.
Yeah.
Honestly, the last time it happened, it was Kofi Kingston. And then before that, Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
And Sami Zayn, if he goes back to that underdog from the underground in his NXT days, I mean, there's no reason he can't be the guy to do it. In my opinion, I just like, I think that pop, if realistically, how I think it happens, call me crazy. I think the final two in the Royal Rumble are gonna be him and Jimmy Uso.
Really? That would Jay or
Or
not
Jay.
Jay?
No, Jay. Yes.
Oh,
Jay.
okay.
No. Jay. My bad. No, as soon as I said that, no. I think it'll be Jay and Sammy, the final two in the Rumble, if Cody Rhodes does not win it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point in time where you see Sammy like he's gonna do the we need to honor our tribal chief. We both like leave at the same time, and that's when you get Jay to crack, and that's when Sammy turns around and throws him over the top, and I think that starts it. And then I think you get Sammy, then gets the piss beat out of him by the bloodline, and you start that build.
Listen, you know me. I'm not a Cody Rhodes guy. So
I know.
that's the alternate. That I'm cool with that. But that wild card of The Rock potentially showing up,
I mean that still looms, but
I still don't think it's going to happen. I
don't
really
either.
don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either because I think if it happens, I think we see The Rock for the first time this Sunday or Saturday. Is it on Saturday or Sunday this year?
Saturday.
Okay, Saturday. I think we'll see if he will be here at WrestleMania. I think we will see him for the first time on Saturday, where Roman does not like look him in the eyes or something, or like something along those lines, where he like comes out like he like the Wild Samoans did in the past, where they like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like something along those lines. Because I mean, it's inevitable the Bloodline's going to win. It's going to be a car wreck, and it's going to be incredible. But
I don't think they're going to win.
Oh,
I don't think they win this Saturday.
They're not going to let Roman take a pinfall.
They're not going to let Roman take a pinfall, but have everybody else do that.
But he has to, though. He would have it's elimination.
No, but
it's War Games. No, War Games. No, you're right. Okay, yeah. No, they could still okay. But do you think they would give up? Do you think they would give up that undefeated streak, though? I don't think they will, regardless of it being a multi-man match.
I do think they will definitely deal in technicalities when it comes to that. They definitely will. And that's why I do think if you're going to start that build, you need something that's going to be a massive deal, because the record book's going to show that the Bloodline lost, which means Roman Reigns lost. But in technicality, they're gonna say, well, Roman Reigns didn't take the pick. Yeah, I think that's a good way to.
Fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Guess we're gonna have to wait and see. I know I'm very excited for the show, and it sucks that it just happened to fall on this Saturday with as much good college football as we're gonna have on. But do we want to get your thoughts for this Saturday before we wrap up the show here, Brandon?
I'm scared as hell. I'm scared as hell. Listen, I felt better after seeing how the week unfolded. TCU struggled. Ohio State struggled, even though they're struggling, scoring over 30 points of offense. Georgia struggled. Tennessee got boat raced by Spencer Rattler. Yeah. And yeah, everyone struggled. Everyone struggled. My concern is Blake Corum won't play. And Blake Corum doesn't play, I don't see what the sense is if you're watching the game. I really don't. Yeah, man. And I do think the biggest difference between last year and this year is that David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson will not be walking through that door. And they need to generate pass rush some way, somehow. And that was the main reason why they won last year. And I don't think we will win. And if we do win, we can come back to this. You can throw egg on my face, and I'll like it. It's okay. It is okay. I will accept it. But I'm scared.
Yeah, I get that. I fully understand that.
And by the way, had Illinois pulled off the upset, I probably would have blocked your number after the fact. But that was scary. Illinois is a damn good football team. And if we have to see them in the Big Ten championship game, if we win, and I'm still going to be scared. They are a good football team.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for what Balima's building there. A couple rough losses. I mean, they should not have lost. Realistically, they should not have lost 3 of their four games they've lost.
Yeah.
And still, I mean, hey, I can't complain with the season. Had 0 expectations. But I'm happy for the Big Ten's sake that they did not win last week. Just because I'm a Big Ten guy, and if Michigan lost, there was absolutely 0 shot at 2 teams making the playoffs. And I still don't think it's going to happen, but they needed that win last week if they wanted any possibility of it.
Oh, 100%. And even if, we lose close to Ohio State, we still wouldn't get in because of this bullshit narrative of the non-conference schedule. When you got SEC teams playing mid-majors midway through the season. But we don't talk about that. We'll talk about Connecticut, who, by the way, is bowl eligible. Hawaii.
Insane.
Exactly. And I think Colorado State it was. I forgot which. I think it was Colorado State. Who cares? You take care of the good teams. And if Michigan would have had a tough time against conference opponents throughout the entire season, you would have a point. But guess what? Both Michigan and Ohio State are going into this game undefeated. So that whole non-conference stuff, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If they lost non-conference, then it would matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that being said, we just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. We will be here next week again. Hopefully not talking about an injured Justin Fields, and hopefully Brandon will not be ready to jump off the ledge following this Saturday with the game. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show, and we will see you next week.